You ever get that feeling like you're stuck in a game, and no matter what you do, the rules are kind of rigged against you? Well, in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. We're going to pull back the curtain on these hidden economic forces, the ones that are quietly eating away at your wealth, and show you what's really going on.
Right? I mean, it's a feeling so many of us have. You work hard, you do everything you're supposed to do, you try to put a little money away, but at the end of the month, it just feels like you're falling further behind. Let me tell you, it's not just in your head. This is a real thing, and we're about to get into exactly why it's happened.
And this right here, this highlights the huge gap, right? On one side, you hear the news talking about robust job growth and a booming economy. But then there's your reality. You go to the grocery store and things cost more. Again, your paycheck just doesn't stretch as far as it used to. It's like we're living in two totally different worlds, the one they tell us about and the one we actually experience every single day.
So here's the most important thing to get right off the bat. If you're feeling that squeeze, it's not your fault. It's not about you not working hard enough. The problem is so much bigger than that. It's actually built into the design of the system itself. So let's start peeling back the layers.
Okay, first up, let's talk about what's basically an invisible tax. It's a tax that doesn't get listed on your paycheck, but believe me, it hits every single dollar you make and every dollar you save. And it has a name you've heard 1,000 times: inflation.
You know, we usually think of inflation as just, well, prices go up. That's it. But a much better way to think about it is that the value of your money is actually going down. And here's the kicker. This isn't some random accident of economics. It's a tool. A very subtle but very powerful tool that governments use to pay their bills without ever having to send you a new tax bill.
And this breaks down exactly how it works. Look, step 1, the government needs cash. More cash than it gets from taxes. Step 2, trying to raise taxes on everybody? That's political suicide. Nobody wants to do that. So step 3, they go for the quieter option. They create new money out of thin air, which increases the total amount of money floating around. And what happens then? Step 4, suddenly you have more dollars chasing the exact same amount of stuff. Simple supply and demand. The value of every single dollar you have goes down. That is the invisible tax, right there in action.
And if you want to see what that looks like in the real world, just look at this number, $74. That's what $100 from just 10 years ago can buy you today. Think about that. Over a quarter of its value has just evaporated. The $100 bill in your wallet might look the same, but its power to actually buy you things, that has been seriously weakened.
All right, let's move on to the next big piece of this puzzle. You know how we always hear about these huge government spending plans, right? Bailouts, stimulus packages, especially when there's a crisis. They're always sold to us as being for the good of everyone, but who do they really help in the end?
And the story they tell is always a good one. You think back to 2008 or the pandemic, we're told that we have to pump trillions of dollars into the system. It's to save jobs, to support families. It's framed as this massive, heroic rescue mission for the entire country.
But here is the question you have to ask. When all that new money gets created, who gets it first? And who ends up with the bill? Because, spoiler alert, it's not handed out to everyone at the same time. There's a pecking order, and where you are in that line, well, it changes absolutely everything.
This chart just lays it bare. That fire hose of new money, it goes straight to the financial markets, to the big banks and institutions first. And what happens? Asset prices, stocks, real estate, they go to the moon. So if you already own those things, you get incredibly wealthy. But what about everyone else? Well, for most people who just earn a wage, their paychecks stay pretty much flat while the cost of everything around them starts to climb. See the pattern? The rich get richer, and everyone else gets the bill in the form of inflation.
And don't think this is just something that happens during a big, flashy crisis. Oh no, this same exact pattern is playing out in the background with things we count on for our future. You know, like our pensions.
I think most of us have this picture in our heads, right? That our pension money goes into this little personal account with our name on it, and it just grows and grows for decades. The reality for most systems is completely different. It's actually a pay-as-you-go system. The money you contribute today doesn't get saved for you, it gets paid out immediately to someone who is retired right now. Your retirement completely depends on the next generation of workers paying for you.
So, what happens when the demographics shift? You know, fewer workers paying in, more retirees taking out. The whole system starts to buckle, and the so-called fixes are always the same. They make you work longer by raising the retirement age, they cut the amount of money you'll get, or
And there it is again, our old friend the invisible tax. They just let inflation eat away at the value of your pension. So when you finally get it, it buys way less than you thought it would.
So how on earth do they sell these changes to us? I mean, they're all pretty terrible. The answer is language, words. They choose their words very, very carefully to mask what's actually happening.
Yeah, you're never going to hear a politician stand up and say, "Hey everyone, great news. We're cutting your benefits and you're going to have to work an extra 5 years." Of course not. Instead, they wrap it up in this soft, happy-sounding language. They talk about improvements and reforms, when, for you, it's almost always a bad deal.
Think of this as your official translation guide. When you hear them say efficiency, what they really mean is budget cuts. When they talk about system reform, they mean we're reducing your benefits. And my favorite, a growth investment? That's usually code for a bailout for some massive company. This isn't just sloppy wording, it's a deliberate strategy to confuse you and keep you from figuring out what's really at stake.
Okay, that was a lot, and it can feel pretty bleak. So the big question is, what the heck can you do about any of this? How do you even start to play a game when it feels like the deck is stacked against you? Well, this last part is all about that. It's about how to shift your mindset and start taking back a little bit of control.
Honestly, the biggest first step is just understanding the real rules of the game. That's it. Just knowing what we've talked about moves you from being a pawn on the board to being a player. An informed player who can actually start thinking strategically about how to protect yourself.
So here's a little toolkit to get you started. Rule number 1, question everything. Every time you hear about a new policy or a big spending bill, ask yourself one simple question: who benefits? Follow the money, always. Rule number 2, protect what you've earned. Don't keep all your savings in one place, especially not just in cash. Spreading it out across different kinds of assets, like real estate, maybe some gold, even digital assets, that diversification is your shield against that invisible tax of inflation.
And at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. It's not really about how hard you work. You can have two people putting in the exact same effort, but the one who understands how the system really works is going to come out way, way ahead. It's not about effort, it's about perspective. It's about seeing the whole game board.
Look, the whole point of this wasn't to make you feel powerless. It's the exact opposite. It's to empower you. Because your single greatest tool, your most valuable asset, is your ability to see things clearly and to think for yourself.
Because here's the thing. The system, the game, it runs on these patterns, and it has for a very, very long time. The rules are pretty much set in stone. They aren't going to change. So the only real question left is, will you?